In this video, I'll be sharing with you a simple illustration on how to achieve this asymmetric bustier pattern. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. So to start, here is my pattern and I'm cutting this in a miniature size. It's an illustration on how to achieve this dress. So I mark the shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and for the blouse length, add 7 to 8 inches. So after marking that, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2. Note, I'm not using the actual measurement, but I'll be saying that. So come down by 1 inch from your shoulder slope. After marking that, mark a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches. I'm using this as a guide, right? So go ahead to connect. After connecting, connect from your shoulder slant to your neckline. The next step is to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Whatever measurement you have, you're going to draw out a straight line. Then go ahead to place your tape and mark back your shoulder measurement divided by 2. Now you're going to connect this all the way to the upper part. Go ahead to divide your armhole into 2 and mark half. Here you're going to mark the bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'm going to connect from the armhole all the way up and connect from the armhole to the bust circumference divided by 4. Now after marking that, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline. This is to mark your dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Now I'll be marking this all the way to the lower part of my pattern, and after I'm done marking at this point, I'll place my ruler to draw out a straight line. After marking a straight line at this point, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to divide my shoulder into 2 equal parts. After dividing what I have into 2, I'll go ahead to connect from my bust to the shoulder. Now I'll mark a dart intake of 1 inch on both sides of my under bust. So I'll take that measurement down. If you're a bit busty or your bust is fuller, please go ahead to use 1.5 inches on both sides. So what I'll do is to connect from the bust to the under bust, connect to the other side. Now after marking this, now I'll go ahead to outline this on both sides of my pattern. Now the next step is to go ahead to take my dart. I'll be using a shoulder dart, which I'll use 1 inch on both sides, and go ahead to connect this at the other side of my pattern. Now the next step I'll take after doing this is to outline the shoulder dart. Let's go ahead to insert my body measurement. I'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4. Now for the dart I have on the chest line here, right? That is what I'll mark. Then add my sewing allowance. At the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4, replace the dart intake, and add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. So the next step I'll take is to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'll connect, drawing out a straight line. So the next step to take is to mark your bust dart. To mark your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. So after marking this, now the next step is to transfer all your pattern to the other side. So next, I'll now go ahead to draw out the shape. So you might go ahead to measure like 4 to 5 inches above your chest line at this point. Then go ahead to connect. So since I'm drafting this in form of an illustration, I'll just use a freehand to create the asymmetric shape. So I'll go up a bit towards the chest line, then connect it down this way, right? So this is what I have here, and I'll go ahead to outline it. Let's go ahead to move down to the lower part of this pattern. From here, you can come down to like 4 inches or 5 inches or thereabout, curve it, then blend out your dart. Now we are going to slant this to about 7 to 8 inches long, and then from there you start connecting it to the upper part. So come up by 3 inches from this side and then connect it down to about 4 to 5 inches. Here's the center front, side fronts on both sides. So after this, I'll go ahead to cut out. If you have any question regarding this tutorial, please kindly go ahead to leave your question at the comment section. And while cutting it out, I'll go ahead to blend out my darts. And after cutting it, we'll now go ahead to draft out the back pattern. So for the back pattern is a lot easier than that of the front. Now after cutting out, this is what you'll be having for the front pattern. For the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out the basic measurements, the shoulder to bust, waist, and I added 5 inches or 4 after the waistline. So I marked the shoulder and the chest line the same way we did for that of the front. So go ahead to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 and place your ruler to draw out a straight line. So after doing this, go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides of your pattern, and I'll come down from that point all the way down to the other side. I'll also repeat this at this other side of my pattern. Now mark your bust circumference divided by 4, add ½ inch for sewing allowance. Mark the waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, add your sewing allowance. Mark the hip circumference and add your sewing allowance. Now go ahead to connect your pattern all the way to the lower part. Now after connecting it at this point, from here, now connect going all the way up to create your hemline for the back. Now come down by ½ inch from the chest line of your pattern. This is to avoid the lacing bar, to avoid popping up, right? Now I'll go in for my lacing area, which you can use 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5, or depending on how open you want it to be. Now I'll just go ahead to draw a straight line, and I'll make a dot to indicate that I have a lacing at that area. Now after this, I'll just go ahead to cut this out. So after I'm done cutting out this pattern, we are done drafting this. So if you have any question, please kindly leave it at the comment section.